Scott, why did you get into the payroll business?
I actually kind of fell into being part of the payroll business. So my parents started the company back in 2006, and I was working for them while I was in college, just doing paperwork, learning a little bit about workers' comp, doing some of those little things here and there, and was fortunate enough to like it enough, found some things about it that I liked it enough to kind of grow in the company. So after I graduated, I kind of started working here full time, and one thing led to another, and now we're 15 years later almost, and I'm kind of running the day-to-day operations of the company and allowing them to enjoy not all of those pressures, still around, but not having all of those pressures.
I know you guys are a family-run business, and I
Yes.
think that's so special, and I know you enjoy that as well.
Yes, it's very nice.
So this is the Fearless Climbers Business Show, and I'm your business coach and host, Kathleen Reese-Jubenville. Today, I'm talking with Scott Riley, the COO of A&A Employer Services. Scott, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So who is your ideal client?
So we're pretty broad in what we call an ideal client around here. So it doesn't matter what they do, whether it's blue collar, white collar. We find that our ideal clients are anywhere from 10 to 25 employees, might be growing or trying to find ways to save time and effort in the payroll process. For whatever reason, those things become a bog in the process of running your business. So we come in and try to look at what they're doing, how we can save time and things like that. So anywhere between 10 to 25 employees is something that we really do well with, because we can come in and do some of those tasks that they don't know how to, or having somebody who's not trained to do it. So we can kind of help with those things.
I know that there's so many business owners today trying to do everything themselves, including their own payroll. And so when they get into that kind of situation, what are some ways that you help them and alleviate that time and that pressure for them by taking over some of that responsibility for them?
Yeah, so we feel like anything that has to do with payroll should be done by us, meaning anything connected to the payroll process. So that also includes processing their workers' comp payments on a month-to-month basis, making contributions to their 401k, making the medical payments, or just making sure that the medical payments are done correctly on the deduction side. As you grow, these things are part of your day-to-day process, whether you like them or not. And we try to come in and say, okay, what can we take off of your plate? So the biggest things that we try to help with is the stuff that isn't necessarily related to their business when it comes to payroll, because you got to pay your people. But how can we help with the things that you're not trained to do, or whatever that might be? And our software, our technology on our end makes it easier for us, even if there is some work on our part. But it's our job to kind of do those things so they don't have to worry about them anymore.
Yeah, making sure their taxes are paid correctly, the filings are done. It's a lot, and the laws are constantly changing. It's so hard for anybody to keep up with this stuff.
Yeah, and I didn't even get to the fact that we do the taxes, right? But yeah, we are making all of the tax payments on time, and doing all the tax filings for them too. And people that are trying to do it themselves, I think the IRS says that, like, if you try to do payroll internally, your average yearly penalty is going to be anywhere between $800 and $1,000.
Oh my
That's any
gosh.
company that thinks that they can do this on their own is going to pay an average of $800 to $1,000. Now, if you're good at it and you don't have that penalty, that's great. But most people screw this up somehow, whether that's payments not made on time and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Not to mention the stress of getting that letter in the mail from the IRS and the hassle of trying to get a hold of them. It is the worst.
Yeah, that's not a possibility, unfortunately. So yes, that is the worst.
Yeah. And so when companies or a business owner finally comes to you, Scott, what are some of the things that they're feeling, the emotional challenges that they're having?
Most of my new clients fall into two buckets. One is the new employer, the new company that just doesn't know what they're doing and needs just like basic information. I feel bad for them because they feel like they're asking dumb questions, and there just really isn't any. If you're not doing this or not running payroll, you don't know what your costs are. You don't know that there are things that fall into, your bucket, not only the employee's bucket in terms of taxes. So we answer those questions, and we really go deep into the weeds of what it looks like when you want to start running payroll. The second is when a client, is already with somebody, normally, your big box stores. They struggle to get anyone on the other line to help them. They struggle to have any customer service at all. They are doing all the work too, which is the dirty little secret. We do so much more work than what those bigger box stores do to help them process payroll, whether that's they giving us, they might give us like an Excel spreadsheet for hours. They might send us an email with the hours for their few employees. Those big box stores tell them, here's your website, here's your login, put in your hours. And if your hours are incorrect, or if you put in, California's laws have anything over 40 hours in a week is overtime. Anything over 8 hours in a day is overtime. And if you don't know those rules and you put in 45 hours for a week's worth of work and you don't know to pay that overtime, you're just setting yourself up for huge liabilities. So internally, whether you want to go in and use that login and we have that capability, we have that software. But if you wanted to do that, we're still going to have a team member look at that and audit it and say, hey, this looks funny, and really look at it for them. So those are all kind of things that we try to make their lives a little easier. And then it goes back to those other parts that they just don't help with when it comes to medical, workers' comp, retirement. And if they're taking care of it, then that's a whole nother story too, because those companies are payroll companies. They shouldn't be putting together your medical plans. They shouldn't be telling you how to do your contributions or your IRA, 401k things. Those should be done by professionals. And that's why I allow any of my clients to bring in their professionals that they're already using, and we work with them. So we don't have any particular, you have to use this work comp carrier, or work comp broker, you have to use this medical broker or this financial planner. We don't believe in that. We want you to use people that you feel comfortable with, because that's what it's all about. You can choose who you want to do business with.
I've known you quite a while now, Scott, and know so much about your business. I've been so thankful to be able to work with you. And I know one of the big things that you guys can provide is customization. And then also you're available.
Yeah.
And these are things that they don't get with these big companies, these big payroll services, that just these 800 numbers you can't get through. They're not reviewing the stuff for you. And like you said, you have to do it their way. You don't have a choice, and you do so much more for people.
Yeah, my clients have options in how they can get a hold of us, right? So not only do they have like our email, who, it's family. We're always on our emails. We're always checking things, and we're always answering back, whether that's 8 o'clock at night or whatever. But, if you have a termination, let's say a client has a termination and it's 6:30 at night, and you want to call ADP or Paychex or these bigger box stores, they're not going to have somebody that's going to answer you and help you. I'm not saying that I'll be able to always help a client in that time to be able to say, hey, you're going to have to write Johnny a check tomorrow when you terminate them. But I can at least get them that before, 8 o'clock the next morning. So then when that employee does come in, there's going to be an email in there that says, here's a check stub. Here's what you need to write them a check for. And you need to, send him on his merry way with that stuff. And those are the things that we do after hours that none of our competitors can even touch, because we are smaller and we do have a lot more hands-on. We don't have a phone tree. So when you call in, you're going to get a body. And those are all important to us because we are small business owners ourselves, and we know how much time we have in a day. And the last thing we need to be doing is sitting online or sitting on hold, waiting for somebody to answer a question. I had a client recently switch over, and she had a PTO question. She didn't know how her PTOs were set up. So she wanted to talk to ADP and figure out how we set these up, why these particular plans were set up in the way they were. And she was on hold for 45 minutes before she got to a body. I don't have to worry about that client ever going anywhere else, because that was the last straw for her. She's like, I literally have one question. I mean, maybe 5 minutes of your time, and it wasted an hour of her day.
Yeah. And I noticed when I would call into some of those companies, the person you get on the other end of the line, they may not know what you're even talking about. They're trained for a very specific aspect, to data entry your hours or something like that. And these bigger picture rules and quick turnaround, like if you have to terminate somebody, there's certain laws around how fast you have to get that check and how you get it to them. And, business owners don't know that. How would we know?
That's not your job to know. And that's our job to inform, right? So that same scenario of a termination where Johnny shows up the next day and he's no longer working there, I'm going to inform my client that we need to pay him 4 hours because he's showing up to work thinking he's working a full day, and you're required to actually pay 4 hours of work, whether you like it or not. Now, I also give my clients the flexibility of saying, no, we're not doing that. That's fine, but it's my job to inform you. I will give you all the information to use however you want.
And the thing is, if you're trying to do payroll yourself, you're not going to know these things. You won't even know to ask the question. We say, oh, you can Google everything. Well, you got to know to ask the question in the first place to be able to get the Google search going. And then, like you said, with the big box payroll services, you're never going to pick up the phone because you're going to be on hold for a half hour to an hour, and it's not worth it. So it's definitely excellent to have the kind of customer service that you provide to really provide that reassurance.
And that's really what this has been built on. We started with 34 clients in 2006, and now we're up to almost 200. And that is really built on what my mom, Beth, has put into place in customer service. We have learned from what she has made. This is what we do. This is how we treat our clients. This is how we're available to our clients. And what that has created is just a huge trickle-down effect to getting referrals from clients, referrals from business networking partners that understand the value in those extra services, and being hands-on with those clients. Because if you're going to give a referral to somebody who you hope will take care of them, they know what we're going to do for them, and they have much more ease in sending them our way because they know that these are the things that we hang our hat on. I'm not as big as ADP. I'm not as big as Paychex. I have no interest in ever being that big. But the things I do have interest in is continue to help small businesses with the things that they don't have to go to those big box stores and know that they have no other options. I try to make a similar connection to, if you have a authentic Mexican restaurant down the street, and that basically for the same cost, I could either go there, or I could go to maybe Taco Bell. Majority of people are going to take the authentic Mexican restaurant, but they have to know about it first. You know what I mean? So we give that extra value of service at a similar cost point, but most people don't know about it, and they drive by the Taco Bell and that's where they have lunch. So once you know about us, you're going to want to eat here.
And the other thing is, I know you guys don't have hidden fees, and a lot of those big companies do. They'll nickel and dime you and charge you here and there. And then at the end of the year, there's all sorts of surprises.
We also do not charge for anything that's not actually running payroll. So things like W-2s, quarterly reports, those are all included in our fees. I would say 90% of new clients that I talk to have no idea what they're being charged.
Yeah.
And that part just makes me shake my head. The invoicing structure is really goofy. They'll charge you 3 different times each time you run payroll. So it gets very convoluted and tough to figure out. Our invoicing structure is really easy. We have one invoice for payroll. It has all the gross wages, all the taxes, and our fees on its own line. So there's no question of what we're charging. And like I said, I understand that I'm competing against these bigger box stores, these companies that say that it's going to be X amount of money to process payroll. We built our pricing structure because I understand that it is a cost thing too. People don't want to spend 3 times as much just because I'm available.
Yes, but if they're spending comparable and you're available, why not?
Why not? Exactly.
Well, what would be your best piece of advice for a new business owner, Scott?
I would say don't be afraid to ask questions, right? We know what we know. It's similar to my mechanic clients. They got into business because they're really good at working on cars. And once you start hiring employees, now you're not just the guy that works on cars. Now you're a business owner who has all of these other things. So don't be shy. Ask the questions, whether you think they're dumb or not, because bottom line is, if you're thinking it, other people have asked it. I have my own shop. I've been running myself, and I hired 2 guys because we're getting bigger. That's great. And he has, an array of questions. It tells me he's doing things the right way. He wants to do things the right way. And I'm available to them to be able to do that. Everyone's been paid for a long time, right? We just get that check, and there's all those lines of taxes and things like that we know that comes out of our check. But I would say a very small percentage of people understand the other side, right? And part of our issue maybe with employees in general is if they had a better understanding of the other side, because there's so much more costs that go into running a business, having an employee that they don't know. And sometimes it's minor, sometimes it's little, like a little tax here and there. And sometimes it's bigger, like your workers' comp premium could be big if you're a roofer, things like that. And so these things are really good questions, and there really aren't any dumb questions. So ask questions.
I love that, Scott. Actually, whether it's related to payroll or anything else, as an entrepreneur, that's one of the fun things about it, actually, is constantly learning new things. So, Scott, what should people do if they'd like to connect with you?
Well, we have a free ebook that I believe you're going to promote for us, which we appreciate. So there's 5 questions you should ask your payroll company before you pay them another cent. If you decide to come with us or go somewhere else, or you're starting payroll for the first time, that's a great resource to at least understand the ins and outs of a few things that you should know before you decide. And then we offer free consultations for anybody who is thinking about starting payroll to answer those questions that they may have. And if they want to switch, we'll do a rate comparison in that conversation. So if you just go to our website, you can schedule a time with me right there on the contact us form, and be happy to schedule a time. It's aaemployer.com.
Scott, thank you so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure. And be sure to follow or subscribe so you don't miss any of our small business success strategies, and click on the links below for more helpful free resources.